Hey beautiful people, welcome to this tutorial. In this tutorial, we're going to be looking at how to connect NodeMCU with a DHT sensor to Microsoft Azure IoT Central. In the last tutorial, we look at how to connect your mobile phone using IoT plug and play to Microsoft Azure IoT Central. And today we are going to be looking at how to connect NodeMCU to IoT Central. In case this is your first tutorial, you are just joining in, this is a chain of tutorial where we are looking at how to connect different IoT boards to different cloud platforms. And today we are going to be considering Microsoft Azure IoT Central and NodeMCU. So let's get started.
Here we have the hardware connection. I have my NodeMCU connected to DHT11. For this tutorial, I'll be using a DHT11. So it has 4 pins, and the connection goes like this. This is pin 1. It's connected to 3 volts. 3 volts. Connect pin 1 to 3 volts on the NodeMCU, and connect a 10k resistor between pin 1 and pin 2. And from pin 2, connect it to D4. That is pin 2, D4 of the NodeMCU. And the third pin is not going to be connected, but you're going to connect the fourth pin to ground. So once again, connect pin 1 to 3 volts of the NodeMCU. You connect a 10k resistor between pin 1 and pin 2, and from pin 2, connect to D4. We meet pin 3. Pin 3, we are not going to use it, and connect pin 4 to the ground of the NodeMCU. So now I will plug it in, and we are going to do the necessary setup on the laptop.
Okay, here we are in Microsoft Azure portal. We have already established our hardware connection between the DHT sensor and the NodeMCU. What we want to do now is to set up the cloud platform, which is Microsoft Azure IoT Central, so that the two can send and communicate between each other. So I'm going to use the search bar here to search for IoT Central. You can see here, click on IoT Central applications. So there are a lot of options for us to work with here. You see create, manage, view, refresh, open query, and a lot of other options. But we are going to walk through creating just an IoT Central application. So I'm going to click create IoT Central application here. So after clicking on create IoT Central application, it's going to ask us some couple of questions concerning our resource. Here it has to put in the resource name. Now note that when you are inputting your resource name, there should not be capital letters there or a special character. It will be small letter or true. So here I'm going to call this NodeMCU IoT, all in NodeMCU IoT. It's going to use that same name to create an application URL, as we have seen here, NodeMCUIoT.AzureIoTCentral.com. Now it's asked for subscription. The subscription we are using, click on it. Here I'm using Azure for Students, and also a resource group. Before creating this tutorial, I created a resource group, call it MSSA. If you don't have any, just click on create new. The pricing plan I'm going to choose is standard 2. And templates, under template, just click on custom application. So what you want to do next is to select the closest location to you. Here I'm going to select Central US. So after filling in all the information, click on create. So we see a message here saying initializing deployment. We are just going to wait for that to finish. We see it submitting deployment. Okay, you can see it shows a message here again, deployment in progress. Just like we see here too, deployment is in progress. So after this is done, we have access to our deployment. Let's just wait for that. If you check it, there are a couple of information available for you. The deployment name is NodeMCU IoT. The subscription you are using will be displayed also. Mine in this case is Azure for Students. We have the resource group, which is MSSA, the start time and correlation ID. So once that is done, you can click on go to resource. So if you click on go to resource, you're going to see some information here, tags. All these information are necessary for you if you are deploying this on large scale. But now we are just going to set up a communication between the NodeMCU and IoT Central. So after you are done, if you want to check this through, you can check it. Now to access the application, you are going to click on IoT Central application URL, which is the link displayed by the right hand corner. So if you click here, it's going to take you to another tab. So as you can see, we have another tab here. This was the former tab that we're working on, and then we have this. Now this is where you're going to be creating the main application. This is where you're going to be creating the device template, and everything we need to create to establish connection between Azure IoT Central and NodeMCU. Now if you check here, you have dashboard, you have device group, rules, analytics, jobs, device templates, data export, and administration. Let me just give us a few of what you're supposed to do. You are supposed to create a device that's going to be receiving information from our hardware, which is the device, the actual device. Now before we can do that, we have to create some kind of a blueprint of how we want the device to behave, and that is called the device template. So before creating the device, we are going to create a device template. So this is just a blueprint of how we want the device to behave. This depends majorly on the type of data you are going to receive, and depends majorly on the type of sensor or the type of board that you are using. Now we are using NodeMCU connected to a DHT sensor, and we are expected to receive the data, temperature, and humidity. So we are going to create our device template based on this information. So click on create a device template. Now after clicking on create a device template, if you see here, there are a lot of device templates that have been pre-created for you, some by Microsoft and some by other third parties. If what you are using and what you need is here, you can just use this. It makes it a lot easier for you. But if nothing like that is existing, I'm going to walk us through creating a device template of our own. So click on IoT device and click on customize. Now what you have to do here is to give your two options here also. That's also create a custom model, or we import a model. If you have a device model that's already existing, it's in some kind of a JSON file, you can import the model. But if you want to create your own model, you can just click on create model. Now there are a lot of things you can do here depending on your knowledge of the cloud and how you have been working with this. We have some things to fill in before we can proceed. We have an option here that says add capability. So what we're supposed to add here is all the data that our device is going to be sending, we have to put them here. So if you click on add capability, it's going to ask you to place the display name. My device is going to be sending in temperature and humidity. So I'm going to input temperature. So the name is temperature, the capability type, leave it as telemetry. You have option, is it command or a property? But since the data, leave it as telemetry. And ask you the semantic time. Now, if you are sending data that is not listed here, you can just click on none. But since temperature is listed, I'm going to look for temperature and click on temperature. And also we have humidity coming in. So I also leave this as telemetry since it's a data. And I've checked if humidity is available for me. Yes, you have humidity, relative humidity. Now I'm receiving only two, temperature and humidity. After that, click on save. It has saved that. Now the next thing to create is the view, how you want it to look, how you want the display to be. Now the display I want now is a display of the last value for temperature and humidity, and also a graph of humidity and temperature. So now you can edit device and cloud data, you can visualize the device, I can generate a default view. So that's what we're going to click here, generate default view. This can be changed anytime. If you click on overview, you're going to see how your data will be displayed after sending from the device. The actual device sending data to the cloud. I wanted to display the last value, like if the DHT sensor sends 23 degrees Celsius, I wanted to display 23 degrees Celsius. So you're going to click on last known value. Also, you click on last known value. There are a lot of options for you here. You can delete this, you can copy, you can edit, also resize it, and however you want it to look like. So if you have, for example, if you have a temperature data coming in or a location data coming in, you can just use map. You can use map. You have a lot of options for you. You can just walk through all these options and check how you can use them. So after you are done setting up your template and overview, click on save. So after saving it, you can go back. Now you are done working with our template. Then you can publish it. Now click on publish. Publish. So after publishing the device template, the next thing you want to do is to create a device. So the device we are going to create is going to use this template in organizing the data. So come to device and click on create a device. Now what we have to do here is to give our device a name. I'm going to call this NodeMCU IoT. I'm going to call it NodeMCU IoT, and I'm make the ID to be NodeMCU 1. So the device name is NodeMCU IoT and the device ID is NodeMCU 1. You can give this yourself. You can edit the organization. Now it asks to select a device template. Since you have already created one, it's going to list it here. If you have not created anything, it will not list anything. Because you have created NodeMCU DST, you are going to click that as the device template. If you scroll down, it asks if you want to simulate this device, leave that as no and click on create. So after creating our device, we have some information displayed to us. We have device name is NodeMCU IoT, device ID is NodeMCU 1, device template, device status is registered, the template is NodeMCU DHT, organization is NodeMCU IoT, and simulated it's no. So the next thing you want to do is to open this device and check through it. Now there's no any about, we have not had any capabilities yet. The overview, this is the graph of how everything will be displayed. This is the graphic overview of any data we are sending into the device. So this is the raw data. Since now we have not sent anything, it says no rows found. Mapped aliases, this way we can get some other information. So now we are done. We have created a device template and we have created the device. The next thing you want to do is to connect between the IoT, the actual device, and IoT Central. To do that, click on connect. So here you have all the information you need to connect your NodeMCU to Azure IoT Central. So we are going to be using all this information: ID scope, device ID, the primary key and the secondary key to connect our NodeMCU to the IoT Central. We are going to be inserting all this information in the code. So let me go to Arduino IDE to write the code so I can input all this information to establish the connection between the NodeMCU and Azure IoT Central. The way the code that we need is established, the way it's structured, it's in a zip file. I have it over here. Let me open the zip file. I'm going to drop a link to the file below. So I'm going to extract this. Okay, we have it extracted. Now if you check, we have some couple of files here. We have src, the git ignore. This is the main file that we're going to work with. This is the readme file and this is the sketch file. Now I want you to know something, that for this particular program to work, this file that we're going to work with must be in this folder, because we're going to be using some. If you open src, we're going to be needing most of all these files. So ESP8266 must be in the file that we're going to work with. I already have it open. So this is the file. Don't forget it must be in the folder that we extracted it to. Now if you send this, if you try to run this, it's going to send some random data to IoT Central. But now what you have to do is to edit the file, bring in the DHT sensor data, and also send the temperature and humidity to cloud. So let me go to the next file. So now I have everything set up here. I've just walked us through the working of this program. So I'm including the header file here. Now these are the major edits that I did. This has been there before. So now we have to include dht.h. I'm using a library, DHT sensor. So define the pin DHT, which is pin 2, and here also you have to input DHT type, which is DHT11. Now here for Wi-Fi SSID and password, you have to input your network SSID and your network password. So the scope ID, this I told you initially, these are the data we are going to be using, information we are going to use to connect our NodeMCU to IoT Central. If you come back to now, if you check your IoT Central, we have all this information. We have the scope ID, we have the device ID. So I'm going to copy out the scope ID scope. So scope ID, I'm going to input it here. Also, I'm going to use device ID too. If you go back to your dashboard, you will see the device ID, which is NodeMCU1. I'm going to copy this and insert it into my code. Now I'm going to use the primary key. There are two keys you have there. If you check, you have the primary key and the secondary key. You can just need one. I'm going to copy the primary key. So I'll input it here. I need to confirm something. I think one of these equal to is not there. Or better say, let me just recopy it again. I think I missed the primary key. Okay. So this is the primary key, and also here you see I've already declared the class DHT pin, and DHT type. So these are the edits, major edits that I did. And inside setup, you're going to have your DHT.begin, and inside the loop, just like you want to read from DHT sensor naturally, you're going to have the float H. You want to read the DHT and want to read humidity. This is what I have here, H and T. So every other thing is constant apart from send data. Now here is where the major sending is happening. So these are the lines that send the data to the Azure IoT Central. If you want to edit anything, you want to edit how it's sent, you want to add, this where you are going to edit. Now two of these lines are working for one. So these two lines are working for temperature. Here I have to insert temperature. Now you have to make sure that the service you write temperature in the device template is the exact way you are writing it. Don't forget, when you are inputting capability on that device template, you input temperature. So this exact way you write temperature, this is the exact way you have to write it here. And also humidity, exact way you write this there, exact way you have to put it in your code. So after writing postcode to SM print, put down your temperature, then you have to send it as a telemetry. So what this line is doing is sending temperature as a telemetry. Here we are inputting humidity, and here is sending as a telemetry. So that's all concerning sending. That's all concerning the code, sending it to Azure IoT Central. So once you are done with this, you have configured it how you want it to look like, you can verify this code and then upload it to your NodeMCU. So I'm going to do that now. Let me verify the code. Don't forget, by the way, don't forget to select the board you are using, the port you are using, and also don't forget to set up your computer to work with a NodeMCU. I assume you already did that before starting the tutorial. And by the way, I forgot to mention this while we are working on Azure IoT Central. I've tried this on different computers and on different browsers. I say that if you are working with Azure IoT, it's better to work on Microsoft Edge. That is the browser, Microsoft Edge. So let's wait for this to verify. That might take time. So once it's done, we are going to send the data to the cloud. I'll just upload the code now. Once it's done, I'm going to pause it to allow it to finish, and I'll upload it. Okay, now I'm done uploading it, and I have the serial monitor open. We can see some streams of data are coming in. I have my temperature and humidity. If I go back to Azure IoT Central, I should have the following data in. Okay, now back to Azure IoT Central. You can see it's connected already. Let me do something. If I go back to devices, if you navigate your mouse over the name of the device, you're going to see connected 2 minutes ago. So if I click here, I'm going to see data coming in. I have, just like we planned from the IoT, from the device templates, NodeMCU IoT, I have the graph of the temperature and humidity here, and I have the last known value for the temperature, which is 29, and the humidity, which is 10. If you come to raw data, you're going to see the raw JSON file format of the data. Let me expand one. This is taking time. If you expand this, you're going to see the JSON format of the files. Come back to overview, we have the temperature, we have the graph here. So that's simply how you can send your data from NodeMCU to Azure IoT Central. The major thing that happens here is the code. It is here. So I'm going to share a link to where the code can be downloaded. And once you edit, this can be edited anyhow. Whatever data you want to put is going to be in this block, as we have seen initially. So data will be in this block. You can do all the initialization before the code, just like we see here. Bringing in DHT, the library, configuring the pin, setting up the SSID and the password, and also inputting all the device scope, device ID, and device key. Don't forget, you have to use the primary key. It's very important. You can also use the secondary key also. Just use either of the keys. So that's simply how you can send data from NodeMCU to Azure IoT. Next, we are going to be looking at how we can send data from a Raspberry Pi to Azure IoT Central. So you are going to see that in the next tutorial. So thank you for joining me in this tutorial, and see you in the next tutorial.